Good morning, everybody. It is another special episode of Breakfast with Bill. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas. Sitting across from my two favorite guys to hang out with every Tuesday morning, Bill, Matt, Breakfast with Bill, Christmas with Bill. How are we doing this morning?
Good morning. Good morning, Evan. And I love those lights. Love those lights that you're wearing. That takes
Thank
a
you.
man.
They do light up a little bit, but, well, I don't know if you can see it on camera or not, but Jenny got these for me, so I figured I had to show them off on camera today. So big shout out to my wife, Jenny.
All right, Jenny.
Nice.
Thank you, Jenny. And Evan, are we selling those on the website? If anybody else wants to get those, can we?
Yeah, smash that like. You get a 50% discount. Use the code BILL20. 20% off the Talarico Group website.
That's right. Well, who knows? Maybe someday we'll be selling Christmas lights. I think back in March, many of us thought we might have to sell Christmas lights to make it through this year. But the year has been a pretty special one for all of us, I think, and learning and growing. And, you know, this time of year, as we come into Christmas and we come into end of the year and we start, it's that natural time of, I don't know if it's watching Scrooged or watching Christmas Vacation, all these different shows that focus on, you know, looking back on the year that's been, looking forward into the year to come, that can come. And Matt and I were going to talk today in that same spirit a little bit about reflecting on the past few weeks, building on the planning discussions we've had and how we make 2021 an incredibly intentional year and make it a special year.
Put a bow on it, so to speak, over the last couple weeks. So just to recap a few very important things, and you know we've had triads over the last few weeks.
And maybe what is a triad, Matt, for those that don't know?
So a triad is between the person being coached, the owner or the manager, and then also a person from the Talarico Group. And we really believe in getting together, celebrating the successes, looking for growth opportunities. And I always preface it, and people that have had the triads have heard this, it doesn't always necessarily mean taking something bad to good. It might be good to great, or how do I maintain? How do I strengthen? We requested in the triad meetings, everyone pick a theme. We've been talking about themes. Intentionality seems very big, but when we have a theme and we're able to root our day, and when we leave the office, say, how did I live this today? You know, how did I live consistency, or how did I live tenacity, or whatever? Someone even picked mojo the other day, which was one of my favorites.
I'm not sure that's a virtue. We sometimes talk about the virtue of the year. I didn't know mojo was a virtue, and you know that triad, simply meaning three, right, is Matt or I, the person we're coaching, and then the executive sponsor inside the organization. We get together, and it's an opportunity for the person we're working with to say, here's the great things I think I've done. Here's the places I've grown. Here's the places I need to grow. The executive sponsor or the owner can share back with them what they observe. Here's the good things you've done. Here's the things I'd like you to focus on for the next 90 days, 180 days, year, whatever it might be. And then it becomes our job to hold everybody accountable to doing those things. So that's the triad.
And where the magic happens, I love the quarterly interval. And it doesn't mean let's set quarterly goals, regroup at the end of the first quarter and say, hey, how did we do? It's a great way to integrate the one-to-ones that are going on, whether it's with myself or with a manager within the organization. Because I think at the beginning of the year, we have this laundry list of what we want to achieve and all the habits that we want to create and everything that we want to accomplish. And most oftentimes, if it's salespeople, we talk a lot about the revenue. Here's the quota that I want to get to, which, you divide that by 12, I need to sell X a month. And that's all good because sales is not a participation sport. But what this allows is to measure some of those things like time management, delegation, calendaring, which we've talked a lot about, actually scoring that, because there's really two scores to calendaring. And if you break it down, in my mind, it's did I schedule it? And then did I respect that time, which are two different things.
Right. And when you talk about calendaring, going back a couple of weeks, we talked about quadrant 2 time. How do we find quadrant 2 time? And oftentimes we'll come out of triads, we'll come out of coaching sessions with someone making a commitment to more dedicated quadrant 2 time. And for salespeople, that could be prospecting, that could be note writing, handwritten note writing to people that have helped us over the past month get to where we need to go, right? That could be whatever. It could be practice and role playing. It could be skill development, right? Whatever that quadrant 2 time is that you devote and the activities that you name in that quadrant 2 time. As Matt said, number one, did I get it on my calendar? Because we know if it's not on the calendar, it won't happen, right? If it's on the calendar, has a better chance of happening, right?
Not
Doesn't
guaranteed.
not guaranteed, but it's a better chance. So did I get it on the calendar? And number two, did I respect that time and actually live it? Because, we talk about integrity in the moment when we look at our calendar. And when that integrity in the moment means, okay, I have quadrant 2 time scheduled from 10 to 11. I'm supposed to be prospecting. But my boss calls, a prospect calls, my wife calls, trouble at home, whatever it might be, something takes us away from that time. And that's okay, because that's going to happen. That's called life. But when that happens, what do? Do I say, I'll get it next week because that time wasn't important? Or do I move that time till 1 o'clock? Do I move that time till later in the day? Or do I have the discipline to say and filter out the things that aren't important and urgent, right? Or do I just look for excuses to not prospect? So that's having integrity in the moment.
And it's asking yourself or the person that comes to you, because oftentimes there's people bringing you fires. It's very important to them.
Right.
And
important and urgent to them sometimes, not to us,
correct.
though.
So it's okay to say, can this wait a half hour? Can this wait 15 minutes, 45 minutes, whenever that may be, that we're out of this block of time? So yes, and especially if your wife calls, I would always answer Susie.
Yeah,
So I
or
don't,
Paige.
I don't want you to try that with Susie. Obviously, answer. But people that come into your office, knock on your door, myself included, can it wait? Can it wait a half hour until you're through that time? And if it can't wait, like you said, rescheduling it is really important.
And so often that interruption will start with, "Hey Matt, you got a minute," right? Or, "Hey Bill, you got a minute," and it's okay to say, "I will at 11:30," right? Or "I will at noon," and let somebody. That's not being rude. Just, can it wait? I'll have a minute at noon. Can it wait till then? And if someone's like, "Nah, we got to jump on this,"
Okay.
great. If they say, "Yeah, that's fine,"
And part of that, clear next steps internally. So when you say, let's do it at 11, put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Let's treat it almost like a prospect, and because there's nothing worse than mismanaging expectations. Because if you come in and you talk to me and say, "Yep, 11 will be good," I go back in, it's 11:05. Hey, just give me another minute. Hey, we're good.
And you've never experienced this with me, have you, Matt?
No, this is totally hypothetical. Totally hypothetical.
Yeah.
But it's really important. Just to continue through some of the recap, we seem to strike a chord with a few people on the role-based planning. That's important. We suggest everyone has the role-based quadrant 2 goals per week.
Role-based planning, meaning finding my roles versus just activities. As I've said before, my roles are husband, father, my faith, being a leader here to my team, and then being a coach externally. So those are my 5 roles. 6th role of son, volunteer, whatever, that vacillates and comes in and out of my planning week to week. But having those 5 core roles, I know I need to have a theme of the week, and I need to have a big goal for the week, something I need to get done. And being committed to that helps you see the week in view. All right, so that's that role-based planning versus just, mail this out on Tuesday. There's a place for that.
Sure.
Absolutely need our to-do lists. But when we start with the big picture, and that's weekly planning, we start with that big picture in mind. And even annual planning, when we look at word of the year, virtue of the year, goal of the year, tenacity, mojo, mine's gratitude for 2020. I think I'm ready to announce what it's going to be for 2021.
I'm still in between a couple.
Yeah. Gratitude, I'm taking into 2021 again, because I think there's still more of it there. We didn't exhaust it. So,
well, talk about real quick, because I think as salespeople, as people that go into 2021, I'm going to do a better job planning. And they carry around a little notebook and they say, okay, I need to do this. And then, I'm much better at planning this year. Let me put it in my spreadsheet, in my to-do. And these people leave the office with more on their to-do list than they accomplish. So
Right.
talk about that weekly planning. Talk about it's different than just a to-do list or a task list, because we know all activity is not created equal.
Yeah, and sometimes we think we're being effective when we're just being busy, right? And if we're wearing our busy button, we're good, and we all walk around with that busy button on. I think I mentioned before. How many times have you said to somebody lately, "How you doing?" And the answer's busy. Well, what's that even mean? Like, what are you supposed to say? Sleepy? Like, I'm not busy. So it's everybody's busy, but we wear that busy button with pride. How about instead, let's have some intentionality. Let's have some focus. So when you do the role-based planning for the week, it allows you to look at big picture stuff. And as an example, my daughter's a senior in high school. My son's a sophomore. He was transferring schools this year. At the beginning of the school year, Susie was very emotional. I am too, but Susie was very emotional. So my weekly goal for a couple months was patience and understanding, right? That was my weekly goal, my weekly view, my weekly, my self-talk, if you will, my weekly self-talk about what do I want to make sure I bring to our relationship in my role as husband. As my role as father, so often it's eye contact. Right, because it's so easy to just be there. Matt and I like to talk about being where your feet are. But if I'm in my living room and I'm staring at my phone and I'm listening to conversations, I'm kind of participating in conversations, but I'm more worried about texting, or I'm more worried about playing stupid games or whatever it might be in social media. I'm not being where my feet are. So for me as a father, my weekly goal many times is eye contact, because that's a way that takes me away from that distraction, but also makes me connect and live out a value that I think is important, and that's truly connecting with my kids. So that's an example of what weekly planning does and how it reshapes our mind versus just says, say I love you one time or something, right?
And I think there is a place for the tasks, because the tasks and activities are important. But one of the processes we like to use is the old school planner, the planner that has a calendar on it, or at least a weekly view, and we're unafraid to put something that comes up on Friday.
That's
Friday's task, even if it's Monday. And so I think a good practice that we have to get into is not necessarily just that laundry list, but writing it down. We know how important writing it down is, because it gives us permission to forget about it until it's due. And everything is not due the same day, that day. So don't be afraid to give a week view and put it out a different day. And there's going to be things that carry over. It happens to us too.
That permission that you talk about, by the way, is huge, because that's freedom.
It's gaining your mind share back.
That's right, because we're not worried about carrying it here. I put it on paper and I get to it when I get to it then, right? Because too often when we're carrying everything in our head, it's a horizontal priority list. Everything's as important as the next. And, for those people that have horizontal priority lists where everything's 1A, and we just write it off to the side, part of that is behavioral driven, natural behavioral style. The other one of it is just deception. We can trick ourselves into being busy when we do something that's really not that important, but it's comfortable. I was talking to one of our clients recently, the CEO of a business. He sold his business to a private equity firm. We're working with them. We're working with him in the private equity firm to help grow the business now. He was retained as a CEO. Great guy, really good man. And he and I were talking about it being entrepreneurs and business owners, the stupid stuff we do, right? What are the things we do that we really don't need to do? And he and I both laughed about coffee cups. Like, we both still like to order coffee cups, right? Like, are you kidding me? This is a guy that sold his business to a private equity firm. And he's like, yeah, I still go and order coffee sometimes. And I told him, I said, I order coffee cups sometimes because, like, I know the ones I like, and and they're in the orders in Amazon, and only I can get in there. And it's this feeling of having importance. And the reason for that is because back when it was just like me and Matt, I was ordering coffee cups, and for him, when he had 5 people, he'd go in the back and work on the product and make the product. And now he has 40 people and he still finds himself going back to those things that are comfortable, he has to break free of that, as do I. So that's just...
And Ron, I think we have to schedule an intervention for the
For coffee cups.
first or second of the year.
I've passed on ordering coffee
okay,
cups, by the
good.
way. Fran knows how to do that now. So, yeah,
Excellent.
but it's getting out of that mindset of just being busy, and it's getting into actually doing the things that are important. And we always talk about, what's your value to the organization? And if your value to the organization is, if you're a $30 an hour person, and you're doing $10 an hour work, you're stealing from the organization. But that role-based planning versus activity planning can set you free. It'll allow you to focus on really big stuff that allows you to be intentional as we go into 2021. Matt and I talked about, what happens when you get off? Mm-hmm. Right? So what happens when we get out of that rhythm, or we find ourselves going into a little darker place because we're not having the success we want to have? Well, I think in that point, we need to have something that helps us come back out of it, right? Because sometimes we suffer from the stinking thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's just like everything's bad. I'm bad. The market's bad. The economy's bad. Everything's bad. Why'd I get up today? Right? And that stinking thinking can take us into dark places. And if we think we're only as good as our last call or our last weekly report, we're in trouble because we've just objectified ourselves and we're no longer a creature, right? Creature meaning created. So we have to always go back and remember that we're not good because we do good. We're not bad because we do bad. We're good. We're good just because we are. We were created good, right? And remember that we were created, which means we were created out of good, and we are good. We just have to go out and then do good. It's not the opposite, right? We don't become good because we do good. And I think I spent most of my 30s thinking I was good only if I had an opportunity to share a good resume with somebody. So, I'm on this volunteer board and I do this, and, I sold to this company, and this guy who is a big guy likes me and thinks I have value. That's objectifying ourselves and others. Get out of that. If you're in that now, it leads to a bad path. Go back to your journal. Go back to whatever it is that allows you to record what's really important and find why you're good. So you have that anchor that you come back to in bad times.
And that's why weekly planning is so important because it gives us an opportunity to not necessarily start fresh, but recenter ourselves on a week-to-week basis to go out and to achieve, not only in the professional workplace, but for those goals, that role-based planning, which can feel just as good, if not better, than hitting our quota when we're thinking about the roles in our life.
And the reason for that is because we're in control of that weekly activity. And I always say, if we do enough of those right things throughout the week and we do all those things we lay out, quota achievement just happens. When we wake up and say, how am I going to go sell $1 million this year and focus on selling, it's a lot harder to get to. When I wake up and say, I'm just going to swing the axe and keep chopping wood because I know these are right things to do. You wake up in October with $1 million on the board, and now we're into overachievement.
I tell the salespeople all the time, how you get out of a funk is doing the next right thing. And it's very simplistic, but hopefully through some of this planning, we now know what that next right thing looks like. I think that's half the battle. And activities, right? We can control the activities that we do because I think activities are a effort measure. One thing, just getting back to the triads, we're also looking at the effectiveness, which is the engagement or advanced conversations. So when we're looking at what goes into a salesperson's day or week, we want to be able to measure both of those, the effort and also the engagement in advancing conversations.
It's funny, as you were talking, I thought about how much salespeople and in life in general, we how much time do we waste looking for the silver bullet, right? How much time do we waste looking for that magical cure, the next big thing, when really the next big thing isn't what's important. As Matt said, it's the next right thing that's important. And the more times we get to do the next right thing, as we string together the next right things, great things happen, right? And Matt talked earlier about going from good to great. You don't go from good to great with massive changes. You go from good to great with consistency. You go from good to great with doing the next right thing. And I always like to use the example of Mother Teresa. When most people like us with entrepreneurial mindsets and big ideas walk out of the door and we see a homeless person sitting on the street, if we either go to, well, they're faking it, but if you're compassionate and you think, okay, they need something and I need to solve homelessness. Like that was always my mindset. Like, how am I going to solve homelessness? You know what Mother Teresa did? She just went over and hugged the person. She loved them. She did the next right thing. She didn't go off and theorize and plan. She just went and did something. She did the next right thing, right? And look at how she changed the world by doing enough of the next right things, by doing these small matters with great love consistently. And she changed the world. So do the next right thing.
Mm-hmm. And I love the phrase that I think it was created this year of just win the morning.
Yeah.
Win the morning, win the afternoon, and you win the day.
Yeah. Win the next hour if the morning's too big for you, right?
Yeah.
Because this year was overwhelming in many ways. And some days, you know, especially, and I don't mean to be sexist, but I think the group of people I admire more than anyone else in the world are working mothers. And I get to see some of that at home, you know, and I look around, I have like one job. It's go to work, right? And then you look around and like my wife, Susie, she takes on so much and she works here. She does a lot for the business. She does it from home most days, but then she has other things she's doing around the house. And you look at working mothers and even not working mothers, but just mothers. Like think about Paige's day, right? You know, think about the grind that her day is, right? I mean, Matt and I
try not to sometimes.
Matt and I talk about when Lucy, his new daughter, has a rough night. And I was like, now you realize she's still having a rough day and you're not there like Paige's, but it's a grind. And sometimes it can become overwhelming to think about winning the morning. Win the next hour. Win the next right thing. Just do the next right thing. And it can help us get through that day, get through that week, get through that month, and be victorious and feel great achievement in doing the next right thing.
One thing before you get into that, just as the follow-up as well, having a gratitude list struck a chord with many people. Some of the things, a theme that came out of the triad is I don't say thank you enough. I always, as a leader, as a person on a team, it's either in the personal life or even in the office. We are constantly chasing perfection. We are constantly looking to improve. Individuals in our office we have a great culture. Right. We're all rowing the boat together, but we don't say thank you enough. We are not grateful enough for the people we work with or the people that we supervise or my mother or my cousin, whoever it is. So consider, how do you have some type of gratitude list? I think it is, it breeds good feelings. It breeds gratitude. It breeds positivity. So I wanted to make sure we just threw that in before you go to your next piece.
Well, one of our favorite phrases, lack of gratitude is the enemy of joy. And, you know, when we find ourselves in a rut, when we find ourselves heading towards isolation, and where's isolation take us? Takes us towards desolation. Where's desolation take us? Takes us to depression. So isolation to desolation to depression. The way to break that cycle, the way to bust out of it is to find something we're grateful for. And usually that something is somebody.
It's like that we just talked about, if we get off of our planning and doing the next right thing. Well, how about the next right thing being saying thank you? Right. Finding someone to appreciate.
It's so powerful. And, you know, like Matt said, that I know that resonated with a lot of folks, but one thing that we lose in that is we look at that sometimes from a selfish lens. Like, this is good for me. Letting somebody know that I'm grateful for them is good for me. Guess who else it's good for, right? When you think about if you got a phone call today and somebody's like, hey, Bill, just want to let you know how important you are to me. Appreciate what you've done. Appreciate this. I'm grateful for you. That's big. That's really big. Right. And, you know, one of our good friends here of the firm, Greg Weimer, likes to always say, I appreciate you. And the first time he said that to me, it really, I was like, wow, that feels great. And it's good to work that in and let people know I appreciate you. So, you know, one thing here as we come towards close, so many of us, and we're guilty of this because, you know, look around us. Right. I mean, look, and I apologize. I found out I tore my bicep yesterday. So if you think I look funny as I'm spreading my arm here, it's because it is funny. But we're surrounded by all this Christmas stuff. We're surrounded by Evan wearing lights. We're surrounded by signs and the Holy Family and the nativities. And we always refer to this as the most joyous time of the year because for us it is. We love this time of year. This year more than any, it's a little more weird though, right? Because we're not sure what's coming in the days ahead. But we also have to be mindful, I think, to remember for some people it's not. For some people this isn't the most joyous time of year because for many people it's the most depressing time of year because they've either recently lost a loved one and this is going to be the first Christmas without them, or they lost somebody they love and this time of year always reminds them of special traditions they had that are no more, or many people just can't be around the ones they love, so they're going to be a little more isolated this year. If that's you, know that you're in our prayers and know that you're not alone. That's, I think, one thing, right? Know that you're not alone. And if that's not you, reach out to somebody that you think might be going through that. And that's the greatest gift we could probably give this Christmas season is that gift of selflessness. And if it is you and you are alone and you start heading towards that isolation, let somebody know. Because it's too often we think we don't want to be a burden to others, but it's not being a burden. It's giving the gift to someone else of letting them be impactful for you. That's a great gift as well. So I think that's it. Anything else on your side?
Nothing other than Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Evan, what's one thing you're going to take away from today?
I just think that I want to thank all of the people that have been watching the show. I know we've had some consistency from some of the people, some of your clients, Matt, some of your clients, Bill. I just want to, issue my gratitude to them. I know that's been a recurring theme, but happy to just see the numbers steadily climbing up. I'm always back here monitoring how many people are watching. So happy for everyone to enjoy the journey with us this year. And I think next year we're going to come back better than ever. Breakfast with Bill. So.
I think fireworks. You said you want to incorporate fireworks into the show.
Little pyrotechnics, little. We'll probably do some choreography next year.
Lasers, and that's going to all be provided by our friends at Pyrotechnico, who is one of our clients and your go-to for special effects and pyrotechnics. But anyways, and we want to echo that. Thank you to all of you who watch us live. Thank you to all of you who restream this, and thank you to all of you who lean into us and give us an opportunity to work with you. We're so grateful for you. Grateful for our families. I think grateful for the gift that this year's been and teaching us so much. And grateful for coming to a new year. But most importantly, I think we're grateful during this Advent season for the arrival of our Lord Jesus, who we get to celebrate in 3 days and is the source of our hope. So that's another thing I'm grateful for, is even though through all the darkness we have great hope. And we know that we're going to win. We know that we're going to overcome this. We know how it ends. We just don't know when it ends or what the story looks like between now and then. So thank you to all of you. I hope you guys have a great
show
Christmas.
Next week?
I don't know if we're doing a show next week. That's to look for upcoming announcements. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So, but thank you to all of you, and we'll probably be here because we have nothing better to do. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. God bless.